YouTube, what it do, man? You know the motto. If you can, go over there, hit me with a like, which is a thumbs up, and that'll let me know I'm sending my stuff. This is a fill-in, homie. This is a fill-in on the like the overhill Slauson 66 situation, and then with the borderline of it being right where the Inglewood sign at in Nelson Liquor Store. A lot of people was asking about that Nelson Liquor Store. Do we claim that liquor store? Is that ours? Or how do we look at that, homie? So, once again, this my hood analysis, along with me, you know what I'm saying, Mike corresponding with a few cats from the area. That was like a borderline liquor store, homie. And all depending what type of cats that's in them stores that day will tear that liquor store up. Or dudes that tear that liquor store up. Because not only did you have Bloods that went to Nelson Liquor Store, you know what I'm saying? Not only did the Inglewood neighborhood Power Rules occasionally hit Nelson Liquor Store, you had Inglewood families that reside in our turf that had hit Nelson Liquor Store. And other B-Dogs occasionally, along with Crips that reside in that on that side. They had hit Nelson, and other Crips just filtering in from LA back in the days might have be coming from LA shooting down a La Brea, and might feel that's a safer liquor store to hit before you get deeper in to the Bloods, of the, you know, which the Inglewood neighborhood Power Rules reside in. So Nelson Liquor Store was like a corn flip, man. It might be whatever. You know, I remember a moment, me and the OG homeboy, you know, BIP OG Big Spider. He a neighborhood power family root type homie. You know what I'm saying? Legendary homeboy throughout the Inglewood slots and shit. But anyway, we wind up hitting Nelson Liquor Store one day. You know what I'm saying? We wind up hitting Nelson Liquor Store one day. We was actually going to a Dodger game, homie. But we wind up stopping there to get some zigzags, because I smoked it weed, and get some drinks and shit. So we go there, me and OG Big Spider, we get some drinks. I get my zigzags and all that old stuff. And as we coming out, I think I'm kind of banged out. Kind of got a little flame on, I think. And the OG homeboy, he kind of like neutral, but he a big old motherfucker, husky motherfucker. So as we slide now, we see some dudes, and you know they could tell we Don Moose, because like I said, we got a little cherry on that blood. You know, Bloods be over there too. And at this time, the OG homeboy, he had a Regal, like a Raider color Regal. It was gray with a black vinyl top on there. And I don't know if I had just got out or was going about to turn myself in. I don't know if it was one of them, but he had some tickets. He was like, we wind up. He was like, man, let's go to it, because he never went. I think he just got out from doing time, and he was like, we was talking about it. So anyway, we coming out. We see some dudes, man. So we get in this Regal. So by the way, so you know people's is MC Hammer at that time. So we see these dudes, and these dudes look at us crazy. So we get in this Regal, we come out. I remember the big homie said, you want to get on him? And I'm like, fuck it. You know, I ain't gonna tell the big homie no. And I remember we pushed, we got in the car, we pushed, and I wind up chunking it up. Them fools wind up cutting out a Nelson Liquor Store, but it's like a little island, so they flipped the little island. We kind of like chased them. They kind of like act like they had a strap and kind of drew down out the window. We like drew down out the window. He was hitting corners in that Regal, but he was kind of stocky, so we kind of like hit a corner after a few corners. we lost them and shit. They banging that, drawing down and shit. We drawing down and shit. So we wind up flexing out of it, out them little cuts right there, coming back out on another street, and wind up flexing up La Brea to the 110 to go to the Dodger game, homie. And we wind up smoking some weed, getting bent, and clowning about being in the Dodger, being at going to a Dodger game and being in the wave, to stand up in the wave and sit back down. But that's a legendary story of me and the OG homeboy, Big Spider, at that Nelson liquor store. Now to move into how did the 64th Street click off of the neighborhood power rules come to life is just like I said, it always been sprinkles of overhill, 60s right there, real 60s, and Slauson when you get up there by Simply Wholesome and all that. And like I said, that hotel was right there at that time. So certain dudes of my caliber knew some of them dudes existed. And some of us from my era knew that if some of them dudes got a hold to a young clique of dudes, it could be something. That's just like back in the days when hoods was, in them 90s, and back then it was tagger crews and different crews inside of hoods. Homie, hoods went to war with these little crews, man, that was developing inside of dudes' neighborhoods, man, whether they was Crips, Blood Hood, SA Hoods, Agent Hoods, or whatever. You had pockets of other cliques trying to grow inside of hoods that was already formulated. So by this time, the thousands then came, we didn't already went through beefing with these little crews, you know what I'm saying? Some homies popping it out. Some hoods then lost homies. We then lost homies to, exterminating other cliques up outside our communities. Not Crips, but cliques outside of our communities that was trying to start inside something that was already set. So we had already went through that, had these experiences, and we're trying to, clear house, or, coming to terms with dudes on, did you join this or be a part of this, because if you go to jail and you saying you were from a little clique inside of something that already exists, you're going to either get labeled as being from that hood where your clique exists at, if y'all dudes ain't just going against that hood beefing and say y'all somebody else. So we had already went through all that shit in the 90s. So now coming to the thousands, and we hear about us a little pocket of dudes over there. Some of the dudes that's down know about history and tradition, they go over there and greet these dudes. A couple of these dudes that's claiming the 64th Street. You know what I'm saying? And my young homeboy Pete Thrizzle, he was kind of like in that involvement of shaking hands and coming to terms and letting them dudes know what time it was. I wasn't personally involved with setting the standards with them dudes. But, as them dudes came along inside the fold, I was able to, shake hands and kind of take a liking to a few of them dudes. Which one of them dudes, he went up, he was 6'4", black at the time. But, some of the younger dudes that's younger in the game, they wind up putting him up under a 6'4" pint. So he wind up becoming at one time a 6'4" pint and represented the 64th Street. So that's kind of how that came into fold. And at that time it wasn't a lot of them. So they, like I said, we had went through it, so dudes knew how to dialogue and make them dudes feel like comfortable, feel like men, feeling like they could still be independent with putting this extra title on top of what they was doing. And it was a plus, it was a plus because that's how hoods lose partial of their hood, and these cliques sometimes help us gain more streets and blocks inside our hoods, because some of us do that new history, just say some 60s or something, some overhill, some 60s or some other Crips would have fell over there that know how to have swag and style, and could have grabbed a group of dudes right there, which was already in the center of borderlines, could have been Crips or could have been B-Dogs. And if some Crips would have grabbed them, that would have been a hell of a get down and a hell of a force for the neighborhood power rules to probably have to reckon with, because of us being so close. Because our zone is Centinela, Popeye's Chicken. Anybody familiar with Inglewood, Centinela, Popeye's Chicken? So you got the gas station right there, behind there, which 64th, few of them dudes reside. Just say if them dudes would have turned Crips, that would have been like a newer, energetic gang that was right across the street from an older gang, and it would have been major clash and major busting, major losses, because they were so close if we didn't get to them dudes and captivate them dudes. So, once dudes grab them dudes, like, what made y'all want to do 64th? What do, and some of them dudes will pick up on history or might hang with Bloods and shit. So, and dudes kind of granted it, because 64th was, over in by the 60s in the CPF, it was always like a 6'4", Nella Park, or 6'4" Long Street Power Rule, or 64th was always, like somebody said, carved out in the middle of Nella's in 60 Crip Hood. So we didn't have really no problem with adopting that 6'4" due to it was historical already in Inglewood, because we had people that reside on 64th that was deliberately across the street from Rolling 60 Hood, homie, turf zone. And we was actually right across the street. Them dudes can actually walk across the street and bust on us, bust on homies, or homies can actually go across the street and give it back to them dudes. That's just how close the dynamic was. So we didn't have no problem with adopting something that was called 64th, because 64th held the tradition, like I said, carved out in the Nella Parks right across the street from the 60s, homie. So that's just my light, brief analysis on Nelson Liquor Store and the lightweight briefing of establishment of 64th Street, which is a click off of neighborhood power rules, which I considered like, little 500, baby 500 type dudes, homie, because 500 block dudes is dudes that help give them dudes a name, a title, and an umbrella to fall up under. So it's just, that's just what it is, homie. 89 on up. G shit, not ye shit. And I'm just serving content, man. That's what it is, man. I'm out.